This is the Redmi 10. It is the company's latest entry-level smartphone, but it's not really that entry-ish in terms of what it has to offer. So in today's video, let's take a look at this phone and see how it actually performs. So the Redmi 10, I want to talk about the design first because Xiaomi made an entry-level smartphone to not only look good but also feel good in the hands as well, because it is finally using a matte finish just like the Redmi Note 10 5G, which I really like. And this matte finish here, it will still catch some fingerprints, but I think that's generally still okay because it's nothing too major. Now, one thing that's jarring to me in terms of design though is the camera cutout. This camera cutout is accentuated even further with a black outline that bleeds through the camera cutout into the back of this body here. I mean, they gotta make space to write something like AI cam photography system, right? That aside, the phone does come with a total of 4 different cameras at the back, but we're only going to focus on 2 of them. Firstly, let's talk about that 50 megapixel f1.8 main camera that's found at the back of this phone. Sure, it does boast a high megapixel count, but is the picture quality any good? It's not bad actually. All of the pictures shown here are taken on a gloomy day's sunset, so there's not much light outside. Overall, I'd say the main camera is decent enough. The camera will snap pictures at 12.5 megapixels by default, and these pictures do look okay, although the white balance is an issue at some scenes, but I don't think that's big of a deal since it can be tuned via software updates in the future. That applies to indoor shots as well. Now, back to outdoor shots. Using the 50 megapixel mode does have one disadvantage, and that is no HDR option. And here I'm gonna show you a comparison by taking the same scene with and without HDR. But that is okay since this is an entry-level smartphone, so I don't think that's much of a big deal. But then, now I want to talk about the macro camera here, because it's using a 2 megapixel fixed focus lens. Take a look at this flower. This shot is taken with the macro camera. And then I took another picture of that flower using the 12.5 megapixel mode. I think it looks a lot better in terms of sharpness, colors and brightness. And you can even crop it in to create a macro look. And just for fun, I also took the picture of the same flower at 50 megapixel mode and then crop it in just to show you how versatile that 50 megapixel camera is. Remember, this is an entry-level smartphone. As for the ultra-wide angle camera, there's really nothing to rave about. It gets the job done, although there are some blurriness around the corners, which is to be expected because of all the ultra-wide fisheye distortion. If you're gonna correct it in post, it's gonna be a bit blurry. That's totally acceptable. And overall, I think that the cameras on the Redmi 10 is actually pretty decent. It does a pretty good job overall, and the main camera, that 50 megapixel main camera, does surprise me because it does take some pretty good shots at certain scenes, although the white balance is something that I really do wish Xiaomi will fix fast in an upcoming software update. Okay, how about performance then? Well, the Redmi 10 does come with a MediaTek Helio G88 chipset. It's not a particularly powerful chipset, so heat isn't an issue, but in terms of games, we can still play Genshin Impact at the lowest possible graphical settings at a pretty okay kind of situation. It does stutter a bit, but it's overall, I would still consider it to be playable. And then as for PUBG Mobile and COD Mobile, this phone has no problems running those games at all. And now, let's talk about battery. The Redmi 10 comes with a 5000 mAh battery, and because that MediaTek Helio G88 chipset isn't particularly power hungry, this phone can last throughout one whole day without any issues at all. And in terms of charging speed, this phone does come with a 22.5 watt charger in the box. But this phone only supports 18 watt charging max. And because the battery is 5000 mAh, it does take about 2 hours to charge from 15 to 100%, so that might be too long for you, but for me personally, I'm gonna charge all my phones using my 10 watt charger only, so it's not a problem for me. And in terms of software, the Redmi 10 is running the current version of MIUI, which is MIUI 12.5, and we talked about it in depth in our previous reviews as well, so I'm not gonna repeat myself here, so check out our previous reviews at the top right corner there instead. So far, MIUI 12.5 works as expected, just like any other phones that are running MIUI 12.5, so yeah, nothing too major, still feels the same. And oh, before I forget, the Redmi 10 comes with a 6.5-inch IPS LCD screen with a resolution of 2400 by 1080, and it can go up to 90Hz refresh rate or down to 45Hz because of the adaptive sync feature, which does prove to save some battery. And the screen overall has pretty good brightness and colors overall, but the one thing that is jarring to me when I first turn it on is that selfie camera cutout size. I have no idea why it's so big, but it's definitely the first thing that I realize when I look at it. And also that pre-applied screen protector is going to make that selfie cutout camera even larger, which I don't know why they chose to do it like this, but overall the screen is fine, no problems for me. So all in all, the Redmi 10, it's a pretty simple phone, and a few things I need to highlight is that this phone does have stereo speakers as well. As you can see here, there's a speaker port at the bottom beside the USB Type-C port, standard. And then the top here, we have another speaker port beside the IR blaster, which is yet another feature that I really like. Thank you Xiaomi for not removing it from your phones, because yeah, this IR blaster is really convenient. And we also have an audio jack at the top as well. And since this is using an IPS LCD screen, we have a side-mounted fingerprint scanner, which is good. I do prefer physical ones rather than those under the display. But what about the price? Well, the Redmi 10 comes in two different variants that you can choose from. You can get it at 4GB RAM plus 64GB of storage, and then you can also get it in 6GB of RAM with 128GB of storage. The former is only at 649 ringgit, whereby the latter is at 749 ringgit. Honestly speaking, I think we might have already found a king for budget smartphone of the year 2021, because the Redmi 10 is a fantastic smartphone for like a one-size-fit-all entry-level kind of situation going on. If you want to use this for, let's just say, a very simple work-from-home phone, or maybe study-from-home kind of situation, the Redmi 10 is gonna it's just gonna fit in all of those use cases, because you can take good pictures using this phone alone. It has amazing battery life. The screen is surprisingly good. I would say it's not bad for an IPS LCD screen. And if you have those long extensive classes, I don't think that 5000 mAh battery will deplete unless you forget to charge it for like 2-3 days, I guess. So yeah, overall, I think for the price of just 649 ringgit, the Redmi 10 is an amazing phone. It's a good choice. So that's it. That's all we have to share with you about the Redmi 10. If you have any questions, do leave them down in the comment section below, and we'll see you guys in the next video.